Alrighty, so as promised, wanted to do a quick video walkthrough for the Practice Quiz 3B, and we'll hopefully get this up in time for y'all to get some study time with it. But for this one, we've got a starter part file. I've got it downloaded and oriented correctly, so click Control 7 to make sure that we've got our isometric view to match up. And then we've got a list of changes and features that we're going to need to apply to our starter file in order to get our resulting object. So these are given in a random order, so not necessarily the order that we'll want to apply them in, but good enough order to start and look through and consider when we would want to do each one. And yeah, so looks like our server file matches up. That's good. We've got chamfers, equation, holes, a pattern. There's a shell feature, so that means that we're going to need to consider when things like our chamfer and other features are going to need to happen with respect to our shell feature. We've got our fillets, a corner reinforcement, so we see that is in detail B. It's this sort of little arc piece there. And a second configuration where we're going to be removing the fillets that we had added and changing the 8 dimension in the front view to a 20. So that's this 8 here, that's going to be bumped up to 20 units. Awesome. So, good place to start. Double check, make sure our units match. They will match in the file that you're given, of course, but it never hurts to be certain. And then it would be better if we could read the drawing a little easier. So for the one that you'll get during the quiz, it's going to be in paper, so you'll be able to sort of zoom in a little bit more manually. But for our purposes, it's probably a good idea to take a minute and look over what all it is that we're going to need to do. So checking over on the model first, we see that this one here is already solid. So the shell that we're going to be applying is going to need to be added as a new feature, which makes sense. We do have the shell or the wall thickness down here labeled out specifically. And then we've got fillets, chamfers, and holes that are going to need to be added to this. So for our chamfers, those are, let's see, where do we have a chamfer? There we go. So the 2x 45 degree x3. So those are applied up here on sort of the top bit of our object there. So these ones, taking a look at our top view, it sort of seems like we don't have the chamfer sort of propagating to the inside of our object. We would expect a lot more hidden lines going on there. It's a little harder to spot down in our section view, but we do also see that we don't have sort of the matching diagonal lines on the inside. We would also then see a bunch more edges in the top up here. So the chamfer is going to need to happen after the shell. The equation is using dimensions that are already used within our object, so we can actually add that right now. It's usually not a bad idea to do the equation early, just because it's easy to forget otherwise. So this one says that D2, which is that width at the bottom, is equal to D1 minus 10 units. So D2, this 120, is equal to D1, the 130, minus 10. So if we... never hurts to update everything to the modern version. Well, it can hurt, but in SOLIDWORKS it's fine. So, setting this up, I'm just going to do the equation through the little menu here. Oops. Usually it would let me do that. There we go. So the 120 is equal to the 130 minus 10 millimeter. Check mark. Oh, there's our equation out of the way. Check. Then we've got our holes. So with these holes, we see that they sort of go through the shell of our object, but we don't get these sorts of long tubes trailing off after them. So the holes are probably going to need to happen after the shell. Same for the pattern. Then we have our shell feature, and then there are fillets. So where are the fillets? We got 2x R15 down here. Yep, these edges look pretty sharp in the model that we've got. So those are probably the fillets that we're looking for. Those ones do need to happen before the shell feature. We see it's rounded on both the outside and the inside. So we'll pop open our fillet. This one's a radius of 15, keeping symmetric and all of that. And yes, we do have full preview active. There's the one, and there's the There's the other. Cool. Check mark. Yep. Don't see those applied anywhere else. Fillets. Check. The corner reinforcements, these bits here, are added based on the inside of the shell. So they're going to need to happen after the shell. And the second configuration, you pretty much always want to leave configurations for the end. So we will leave that off for now. So, looking this over, we've got our shell to do next, because everything else seems dependent on that. So it looks like this object is hollow from the back, so we are going to need to make sure that we remove that back face. If it was not hollow from the back, we would see a hatch-marked portion of it on this side in our section view. So, it's a pretty good indication that that's a safe thing to do next. Set 2 units, show our preview so we can see what we're doing, and I want to remove that face. Cool. Check. Now let's do the chamfers next, because they're pretty easy. So 2x, 45 degrees, x3. So chamfer, 45 degrees, 3 is our distance there. And then we want that edge and that edge. Check mark. Cool. Then we have our holes. And for this, we're going to see which hole we have the most information about. So taking a look at our drawing, we do know this one on the far left. That we see is 28 units over from sort of our center line and 15 units up. So if our starter file is created with the origin in the middle, which fortunately for us it is, that makes creating or dimensioning that hole a lot easier. So we'll create that bottom left hole, and then we can use a linear pattern to sort of pattern out the other 118. So interestingly, the numbers that we got here, the 9x10 and the 11x5, the 9 and the 11 would be the counts, but these are not the instance counts, these are the counts of the gaps between them. So there's 9 gaps, meaning that we've got 10 rows. There's 11 gaps, meaning we've got 12 columns. So we've got our 10x12, so that would give us then 120 holes, which is 2 more than the number we got here, which is why it's important to check our front view and see that we've got these sorts of 2 holes that are removed from the pattern. So taking that all into consideration, let's get that first hole in play. So we're shown that it's a circle from our front view, so we can pretty much just draw that then on the front plane. And then let's place our circle. It's going to be somewhere over here. We see it's got a diameter of 3 units, so smart dimension that in as 3. Dimension from our origin, so it's going to be 28 units over. And then dimension vertically from our origin, because that's the other dimension we got here, is 15 units up. Then it's going to be extrude cut, and this one's going to be a through wall both. Probably get away with just a single through wall, but never hurts to be careful. So we've got that one. Then we can use our linear pattern feature, and the feature we're going to be patterning is our cut there. And then for direction 1, is it not going to let us use the dimensions? I like using the dimensions. Is there some setting where the... Well, we'll show the names of those anyway. Don't really need that. Lame. Alright. So we can use other things for our directions here. To get our x-axis, we can use that edge. There it goes. So I want that dimension as one of them for the sort of left to right. And we see that there's 11 instances. That's going to be, or 11 gaps, so 12 instances with 5 unit spacing. And then for direction 2, this one's going to be our vertical. Weird. Spacing in instances, there's going to be 9 of those, so 9 gaps, so 10 instances. Flippy that up, and it's going to be 10 unit spacing. Then we do have a couple of instances to skip. We've got this top left one and the top right one. Check mark. Cool. So that takes care of our holes in our pattern. Got our fillets, got our shell, got our chamfers and equations. So now we've got our corner reinforcements. So for this one, we see it in this top right corner over here. Well, technically, it's in a detail from a back view, meaning it's the top left corner, but we can also see from the back view that it is symmetrical. So we'll do one of these and then mirror it to get the other. But for that, we are going to need an R8 arc sort of filling in that gap, then something to close off the excess. Do an extrude, and it looks like this one goes down 15 units using a broken out section. You don't see those a whole ton in our homeworks, so important to bring that up when we see one. And then we're going to need a hole wizard that sort of goes the depth of that little reinforcement. So, taking a look at the back of our object, we'll do the one that we know, and then we can use a mirror to get the other. This one's going to be an extrude cut based on this back face of our object. And then we can use a center point arc. What we do know about this is we can see that we've got a center mark down here, and that looks like it is right at sort of the inner edge of the shell. So that makes this sketch a lot easier than it would be otherwise. So we've got that there, and we can sort of close it off. And then we're going to use convert entities to grab the two other edges like that, and then we can trim them to get them down to size. Smart dimension, measure this one out to our radius of 8 units, and then extrude boss base down 15. There we go. Check mark. Cool. So that fills that in nicely. Then we can do our hole wizard. So I generally recommend that with the hole wizard feature, unless you're doing something really weird, you want to select the face that you want to apply it to first. Then we can go to our hole wizard. This one is a countersink. So we're going to choose our little angled one. Reset. Make sure that hasn't checked anything weird. And this one we see is a 2x, so there's two of them. Diameter of 2.4 through. So double check, make sure standard matches. We are working in metric. So that is good. Our through hole, 2.4. Our countersink diameter is 4.4. Countersink angle is 90 degrees. Sorry. And then we've got our end condition. So this one is going to be an up to next, probably. So through can mean either up to next, up to surface, or through all, depending on context. We'll try it with up to next, and if that breaks, we can fix it later. So we'll place our hole somewhere around there, and then we see this one is 5.5 units to the right of this bottom corner, so 5.5, and it is 4.5 units up. So from that point to the bottom edge is 4.5. Cool. So, check mark. And it looks like the up to next worked there. So it's not cutting through too much, but it does cut all the way through this little cylinder piece. All the way through the little reinforcement that we've got. Cool. So now we just need to mirror that over to get the other one, and then we can do the configuration and call it good. So I'm going to use the mirror feature up here. We want to mirror about our right plane. And then for the features to mirror, we want the extrude and the hole wizard. So we've got those two. That looks probably pretty promising. There we go. Yeah, preview looks about right. Set that to full preview. Yep, we're good. Check mark. Control 7. Isometric is matching up pretty nicely. We're on a good pace there. So then for our second configuration, we can pop over to the configuration manager, right click on the top name of our component here, select add configuration. We're not given details here, so it's just config2. And then we need to make some changes. So without the fillets that we had added, and we're changing the 8 dimension to a 20. So without the fillets we added, those fillets were these ones. So right-click, configure feature, and we are going to suppress those in config 2. And then for the 8 dimension, that was in extrude cut, or no, it was not in that one. Okay, let's see. There we go. That was here in Boss Extrude 2 then. And for this one, you can right-click on the dimension itself, select Configure Dimension, and we can change it from an 8 to a 20. Alright, cool. So, a little bit thicker up there to sort of help out probably with a heavier component. But, yeah, it looks good. Double check, make sure that our changes are staying with the configurations that we made them for. That you won't run into problems if you do the right-click configure trick, but it always is good to double check and make sure. But in any case, that then finishes up for our problem, so we can save our file, save as, we'll change it to our standard naming convention, so Williams underscore Tyler underscore all quiz 3b. Cool. And then we can upload and submit that file. So, figure we can call it good there. If you've got any questions, feel free to reach out. Otherwise, best of luck with your studying. Hope the quiz 3 goes well, and I will see y'all soon. Have a good one.